Welcome to the Term Rental Playmaker podcast, where we break down what it really takes to win in short-term rentals in today's market. From insider tips and emerging trends to real conversations with top playmakers in the space, this show gives you the tools, strategies, and mindset to build and scale a successful short-term rental business. Now, here's your host, Joe Roney.
This episode of the Co-Host Coach is brought to you by Savvy STR Agents. If you're looking to buy a short-term rental, then contact the STR Savvy Agent team at savvy.realty.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Short-Term Rental Playmaker podcast. I am Joe Roney, and today we are going to talk about calendar management from spring break through summer. What are you doing? How are you handling your calendar? And what is going to work for you? And we're right around the corner from spring break. So your calendars for spring break, if you were in a vacation rental market, should be pretty full, but may not be all the way full, right? So as you're going into peak season, calendar management is one of the most important things that you do to not only get far out bookings, but also to get those last minute bookings. So even though I have a revenue manager now that's handling a lot of this stuff for me, and Emil and his team do a really great job, calendar management is still something that I'm involved in and something that we discuss. And we want to make sure that we put our length of stays and minimum stays and those different things in the calendar as we're going into peak season, because that's what's going to help us get max revenue. So going into spring break, we, in some of our properties, we started off, a couple months ago with 5-day minimums. We wanted to make sure we had, the people that were booking 3 or 4 months out, we wanted to get those longer stays. As we got a little bit closer to spring break, we lowered those to 4-night minimums, and eventually now, so we're a week away from spring break starting, and we're at a 3-2-1 strategy. And if you don't know what a 3-2-1 strategy is, it's basically your weekends are 3 nights, which is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So if somebody books on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, it needs to be 3 nights basically that they're booking. If they're booking Sunday through Wednesday as a check-in day, then on those days, it's a 2-night minimum. And what that does is it allows you, especially if you're in a market that's really heavy weekend warrior market, that you don't get a lot of weekday foot traffic, it helps you try to fill those calendars up with 3-night stays to increase your occupancy and not have a bunch of just Friday night, Saturday night stays. That being said, as we get closer, one of the things we do is we actually drop that. So when we get within 15 or 20 nights, now we're dropping that down to a 2-night minimum, even on the weekends, because we don't want those weekends to go unbooked. So if we haven't booked a weekend 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, now we've dropped that. We've dropped it down to a 2-night minimum, all the way down to if you're within 10 days. So right now we have it that if we have any days unbooked within 10 days, we go down to a 1-night minimum. Now, do I get very many 1-night stays? No, I really don't. Do I get some? I do. I just had one this past weekend at one of our beach houses in Panama City Beach. It was a 1-night stay. Guests checked in at 4 p.m. They checked out at 8 a.m., 10 a.m. the next morning. They were just passing through. They had a large family. They wanted a house instead of a hotel. I wouldn't have gotten that night booked at $250 with a $400 cleaning fee for my cleaners if I didn't have that 1-night stay. And you might think, well, I don't really want that wear and tear on my house, or, that's, doing those 1-night stays really, puts you in a position to have a party. And in some areas, like if I were in an urban market, I probably wouldn't do a 1-night minimum ever, especially on a weekend, because that's going to be a little bit more of a high risk area for some people to last minute book a party. But in a vacation rental market where the majority of our guests are people traveling through, we do go down to that 1-night minimum and we get it. And not only did we get the $250 night booking, which is great for my owner who we're co-hosting for, but it also got my cleaners in the slow season another $400 clean. And your cleaning teams in the slow season, if you can keep them working and keep them booked, they're going to be happy, because a lot of their properties aren't booking. I just had a meeting with one of my cleaning teams last week when I was in PCB, and he said that out of all the properties they clean, we're the only ones that are consistently cleaning for. They have other properties, they haven't been in the property in over a month because they haven't had any guests in those properties. And so they're really happy. They're really happy working for us because we're keeping them booked and we're keeping them busy, and they're making money during the slow season. And of course, they're going to make even more come the peak season. Now, shifting gears, because we are, once we get past March, we have an early Easter this year. So Easter kind of is the last weekend of spring break, which is, the first weekend of April. So it's a little bit earlier than it was a couple weeks ago. So you're going to have to really adjust your rates, because not only is spring break that first week of April, it's also the end of spring break. So both of them kind of overlap. So if you don't have a little bit of a premium for that weekend, you're probably going to see your rates, your revenue total in April go down a little bit, because last year it was the third week of April. So right now, because April historically in vacation rental markets is a little bit slower month, we already have discounts in place for those second and third weeks of April so we can get those booked. So we're, our booking lead time in our market is only around 40 days. So right now when this airs, which is the end of February, people are really just starting to book those April dates. Now, we have some of our Easter houses booked already, not all of them, but we are putting up a little bit of a premium. Now, as we get a little bit closer, we might have to lower those prices. But this is where the revenue management and calendar management become really important, because we're going into peak season, and these strategies can be the difference between you hitting your goals for the year or completely missing them. And it's a week in and week out process. This is why I had a meal on a couple of months ago at the beginning of January to talk about revenue management a little bit more, because more and more people are hiring revenue managers because of the amount of work and the effort that it takes. Now, as we're going into summer months, you should be 10%, maybe 20% full for your summer. Some of those, especially the bigger properties, your 4, 5, 6 bedroom homes, you might even be closer to 50% occupied by now. There is a couple different ways to look at it. A lot of people will say, oh, I did 7-night stays, there was a discount for 7 nights, and we booked our whole summer. And that sounds great for the occupancy, but did you leave money on the table? And I'll give you an example. As of this, our beachfront or our golf front properties still have a 7-night minimum, and it's a Saturday to Saturday, and that's what we're still booking currently. However, once we get towards the end of March, we're going to switch that really quickly and get rid of that Saturday to Saturday on those golf front properties and bring it down. Now, we're not offering 7-night discounts on those peak properties. It is, you can only do 7-night stays. We just had a $15,000 booking the other day for one of those stays. That's golf front. And there was no additional discounts given on that. We're not giving length of stay discounts during our peak season, at least not right now. We might do it as we get a little bit closer if we have some calendars that didn't fill up all the way. But right now, we're not putting 4, 5, or 7-night length of stay discounts on our peak season. We don't need to. Those dates are going to book up. So you need to really, if you do have length of stay discounts, it's great. They're awesome for the off season, awesome for the shoulder season. It's how you're going to keep your properties booked. It is not what you want to have in place for the peak season. You don't want to give away that income. It's going to hurt your business. So really, really take a deep dive in your calendar, whether you're doing it for yourself or you're co-hosting for others. Right now is the time to make sure that your calendar is 100% spot on. And if you made a couple of mistakes and you got a couple bookings a little bit low, it's okay. Don't freak out. I see people all the time, they'll post, oh my gosh, this booked at 50% less than what I should have gotten. Should I cancel them and redo it? I mean, in my opinion, you're just inviting bad karma. At that point, you have to chalk it up to, I made a mistake. This guest got a great deal. I'm going to provide them a great experience, get a 5-star review. And now I'm going to learn from it and make sure I don't do that on another week. And it's happened to every single one of us. It happened to my first year hosting that we ended up booking a property at like $200 a night. That should have been $500 a night during a peak week because we missed the boat, and it happens. So don't freak out if it happens. Just quickly make a change, pivot, and learn from it. The summer is going to start booking up. don't start discounting now because we're not even in March yet. If you're looking at your calendar and saying, oh my God, my calendar is empty and I don't have a lot of bookings, what am I going to do? I like to go back to May 25th or 26th of 2024. I had a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2 blocks from the beach. It was the first home that Jen and I had for our short-term rental. I had 0 bookings for the month of June, 3 days before the month started, 4 days before the month started. And I didn't go in and discount it a bunch. I knew as a 2-bedroom home, I was going to have a lot more last-minute bookings. And my strategy at that time was I want to be the last person booked during the peak season. I wanted to be the first person in the slow season, but I want to be the last during the peak season to be booked because people are going to book last minute. We booked all but 2 nights that June at a 17% increase over the year before. And it was because I didn't panic. I didn't go in and say, oh my gosh, I got to discount my rates 50% because I'm not booked yet. Now, I'm going to put a disclaimer on this. You have to understand your property. If your property is a well-designed and nice property, you can do these kinds of things. If your property is an average to below average property, that's probably not going to be the best strategy for you, and you need to analyze it based on the type of property. And don't look at it through these eyes that you think your property is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Look at your competitors, look at what they're doing, look at their calendar, see where you need to make adjustments, because this is the time to really be on top of your calendar. These next, we're going to make more money. Like, this is what we call, in the old lawn and landscape days, we started in March as the 100 days of hell. We're going in through what I'm going to call the 150 days of income for short-term rental earners, especially those of us in summer markets. These next 150 days from March through the end of July, these are going to make or break your entire year. So this is not the time to be a part-time operator and think, I'm just going to set it on autopilot and hope for the best. This is the time to be on your game. And this is the time to make sure you have your systems in place and you have everything you need to be able to be successful this summer. So really, really look at your calendar, really look at your revenue. What do you have going during this summer? And yes, you're going to be on vacation and you're not going to, there's going to be mistakes made throughout this summer, and that's going to be okay. But one of those things that you got to do is make sure you're going in and tweaking things as things happen. So as you're getting closer, just like I said in spring break, we drop down to a 3-2-1, then we drop to a 2-night minimum, then a 1-night minimum. We will do the same thing in summer. We will go down to that same 1-night minimum if we have nights that aren't booked in summer. And it really makes a big difference to get those last minute bookings. The last thing I'm going to talk about is, and you can use this whether you're using Hospitable or OwnerRez or whatever PMS you're using, or if you're using HostBuddy AI, you can do this in there, is sending that message to your guests and offering that extra night. You're going to have gap nights. You're going to have people that you have a night before they come that is not booked, or maybe they want to extend a night. If you're in a place like the Emerald Coast, like I am, and you're a regional drivable destination, people extend or come a day early all the time because most of our people are driving. Most of our guests are driving to our market. So we do really well. I think we booked an extra 56 nights across our properties last summer just by offering a 25% discount if they wanted to come a day early on a night that probably wouldn't have gotten booked if we didn't do that. That increased our revenue in some houses $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 by adding those extra nights throughout the year. And it really makes a big difference. If you're in a flying destination, you're probably not going to see as a high level of success on this. People that are in, South Florida or, Hawaii, whatever it may be. If you're in a more of a flyable destination, you're probably not going to see as much success. It's still important that you do it because they still might say, you know what, I'm going to catch a flight and I want to get there a day early. And I go back and I talk about this because we had friends of ours that we went on vacation with quite a few years ago, and our condo was booked Saturday to Saturday. And they got off work on Wednesday and they're like, we're ready to go. And they got in a car and they made it down to where we were going on vacation by Thursday afternoon. The problem is that our place wasn't available. So they ended up having to go somewhere else and run a place for 2 nights. But that was a 2-night stay that somebody else got that they wouldn't have gotten if they didn't have that minimum night down there to a 1 or a 2 night. So that was, two of our best friends that said, I'm ready to go on vacation 2 days early. We'll see you there. And they went down and got those couple of extra nights. When you think about the average person that's going on vacation, this stuff happens a lot. They're excited about vacation. A lot of these people worked really, really hard all year, and this is their one vacation, and they're spending their hard-earned money to stay at your property. And if you have an opening for them to come a day early, they're going to take it if they can. And you're going to make more money, and it's going to make their vacation even better because you gave them a big discount. We do a 25% discount up to a 35% discount for that one night. And it's the one thing that I will negotiate with somebody. If they say, hey, what's that one night? And I send them, it's 25% off. Let's say it's $400 and I'm telling them it's $300. And they're like, I'd stay, but I only have $250. You know what? You're staying here for the next 7 nights. I'll do it. I'll take an extra $50 off. But I'm getting that night booked that I wouldn't have before. So really, really important. Super excited. Spring break starts next week. Busy season is here. This is when we start making the most money in our business. This is when we start creating the great guest experiences for our guests. And I hope you guys have a really awesome spring break. So till next time, thank you for joining me on this week's episode of the Short Term Rental Playmaker.